Lately, BMW has been experimenting with a lot of different design ideas, but one thing they've always been consistent in is the driving experience. And for 2024 model year, BMW has come out with the M3 CS, the king of the 3 Series lineup. And in this video, I'm gonna let you know what I think about this design and also find out if it's still the ultimate driving machine. Huge thanks to my friend Max of M-Town, Colorado for allowing me to review his M3 CS. If you're a BMW fan, make sure you check him out on Instagram, linked down in the description. Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is TheSketchMonkey here. Today we're having a look at this. This is the M3 CS Competition Sport, the top of the line when it comes to the M3. Looks so good, specifically when you have a look at this side skirt right here, making it hug the ground, and also the bronze wheels, of course. So what we're gonna do in this video is talk about this design. So we're gonna have a look at the front end design, the side, the rear, the interior, and then we're gonna take this for a drive. Now, before we jump in and talk about the design, we obviously need to have a look at this powertrain right here. So we have the same tune as you have in the M4 CSL. It's a 3-liter inline-6 twin turbo with 543 horsepower, 479 pound-feet of torque, connected to an 8-speed automatic. 0 to 60 is done in 3.2 seconds. Top speed is 188 miles per hour. And this, when it went on sale, went for $120,000. I do love how BMW shows the engine itself. Yes, we do have a bit of a cover on top here, but I do like all these industrial design features with these brackets right here, for example. It just looks so nice. And of course, this being the M3 CS, there's a lot of carbon fiber on this. We have the carbon fiber hood, and you can see that clearly from underneath. You see the carbon fiber weave right here, and you also have the M integrated underneath the hood right here, looking fantastic. And do we have a hood bulge on the M3 CS? Let's close this down and let's have a look. So what makes this special? If you're wondering how can you tell an M3 CS from a M3 competition, I think the biggest change happens up here on the hood, because you have these carbon fiber pieces coming through the paint. It doesn't look too automotive design or emotional design. It's more of an industrial approach to this front end, but we have some connection with these two pieces up top on the hood right here. They sort of, if you follow these lines into the front end, you can see that they connect with the big grills in the front end, obviously. And these grill inserts are also specific for the M3 CS, because we don't have a sort of a mesh inside there. Instead, we have this skeleton feel, almost like an exoskeleton vibe, with the red outline, also specific for the CS. And I also like that we have the two lines kind of framing the BMW design logo right here in the front end. This looks fantastic going into the grille. However, looking at this and comparing it to the previous generation M3 CS, I still think that the pre-generation has more of this automotive design to it. But if I were to pick between the M3 and the M4, I would always go M3, and that has to do with the shoulder line, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Now, as we mentioned, there is a lot of carbon fiber on this car, and obviously that's to, first of all, reduce weight, and it also looks very, very cool on this car. You can see this is also specific for the CS. This skirt or spoiler that we have up here on the lower corners, it just adds a little bit more of a width to the front end, and it definitely makes the front end look like it's hugging the road when it comes towards you. And when the car is on, you also have the daytime run lights being in this yellow color, also specific for the CS, looking more of a race car inspired design for that feature. So now coming around to the side view, and we've talked about this before, and that has to do with the shoulder line of the M3. If you compare the M3 to the M4 has this broken collarbone, which I like to call it, because we have one shoulder line right here, and then it dips down into the center portion of the middle section of the car in here on the M4, and then comes back up top here. But in the M3, thankfully, we do have one continuous line for the shoulder coming from almost the corner. If you follow this line, cuts into the corner of the headlights and then coming back all the way, and sort of creates a double action shoulder line, because it goes in up here and fades in the back, coming back in the lower section through the door handle into, yes, we do have it in the corner of the taillight. There is still one detail in this design that I think think looks a little strange, and that is this feature of the rear fender, because it's so abrupt, this ending, how this door, which seems to be from a normal 3 Series, I could be wrong there, but they didn't extend this width that we have on the fender. It doesn't smoothly go into the door right here, so we have this clear cut in the bodywork. Now, this being the M3, we do have different size wheels for this car. If I could pick, it would be to have both front and rear be 20-inch. We have the 20-inch in the rear end, and I think it looks super, the size of the wheel looks like it's perfectly fitted for this car. The front end though has 19, so I would like to switch these out to have the 20s in the front as well. 275 width of the front end tires, and in the rear we do have, let's see, we have 285s in the rear, so just a little bit thicker tires in the rear end. Carbon fiber, of course, coming back everywhere on this car. The side mirrors with this typical wing, M wing that we have right here. You have the integrated LED light in this carbon fiber housing, beautifully done. This, I wish this would be carbon fiber as well instead of this plastic, specifically on the CS, but it still looks very cool. And then you have the blacked out graphics, of course, going around the greenhouse, in addition to no sunroof. That's exactly what we want to have on this type of car. Instead, we have full carbon fiber exposed roof up top, looking fantastic. Now, coming around to the rear end, and again, if I were to compare this to the M4, I just think the M3 looks more complete when it comes to the design. We have a clear separation of the top end graphics with this section here, and also more dynamic taillights in the M3. I think the M4 taillights look good as well, but I just prefer these ones. I'm not sure entirely why, they just look better to me. And of course, this being the CS, we have more carbon fiber in the back with this carbon fiber spoiler looking great, not too aggressive. They could have added, you know, a big Fast and Furious wing on this car, but that would again ruin the elegance of the M3, even though it is a CS. I think what Audi and BMW does so well is, if you look down low, I mean, you have proper bazooka tailpipes on this car. BMW does them round, Audi has more oval feel to it. I do think I prefer these, even though I do love the Audi tailpipes as well. This just looks so good to have this traditional M setup with the quad tailpipes in the back, housed, as you can see, with even more carbon fiber in the lower section for the big diffuser. And overall, this design, it's specifically, as I said, in this pearl or almost flat white color, in addition to the beautiful bronze wheels and the black graphics, it just comes together nicely. If I were to buy an M3 or an M4 today, or an M2 for that matter, I think I would pick it in some sort of white color with the bronze wheels. I think it looks great. So with that said, we talked about the exterior design of the M3 CS. Now it's time to jump in to the interior and have a look at what's going on there and what makes the M3 CS special compared to other M3s. All right, guys, jumping in to the beautiful 2023 M3 CS. I'm gonna give you an overview of what this interior looks like. You can definitely see the bucket seats here with the carbon inserts right in between your legs. So let's jump in here and fire this up, and let's talk more about this integration of the latest BMW iDrive system. Now, looking at this design, I just reviewed the M5 CS, which has the previous iDrive system. And even though I'm used to this one by now, we have the 14-inch infotainment screen up here, 12-inch gauge cluster in the middle. The graphics looks fantastic. There are a couple of things that I definitely prefer from the previous iDrive system, and mainly that has to do with the climate control settings, but also the overall integration of these screens. So you can see the brackets back here. I'm not a huge fan of how these brackets are visible in a BMW. It looks like hardware that you shouldn't be able to see or feel when you're buying a car like this. The second problem that I have with this integration is the climate control setting, because if we put this up, in this case it doesn't look too complicated, but for example in the XM you have an array of like a bunch of different settings here, and every single toggle is just for one single setting. For example, if you had heated and cooled seats, in some BMWs you have a separate unit like this for the heated seats and then a separate unit for the cooled seats. I'm going to show you that when I do the XM review, instead of having just one unit for both. So if you click minus, it's going to go to cooling. If you click plus, it's going to go to heating the seats, instead of having just two separate. Stuff like that that just doesn't make sense from an software engineering standpoint. But other than that, the graphics, as I said, I'm used to this graphics by now, and I do think it looks great. You have the map in the middle, as you can see, the tachometer to the right side, speedometer to the left side, and you also have the head-up display right there for the M3 CS. Moving further down, we have these vents that I think looks pretty cool, nicely integrated, nothing too complicated about this. A lot of carbon fiber coming back into this interior as well, which looks great. I like that you have both a lot of carbon fiber on the exterior, also comes in to the interior because it is a CS, so you want to have that in this car. The only knob that you have here is for the volume. So this is the volume control, and that is pretty much the only physical button you have in the entire interior, which is pretty funny to think about. Further down, you don't have any lid for this, and you also don't have any sort of cup holders in the middle right here. Instead, you do have a wireless charger wrapped in complete carbon fiber. Everything here is full carbon fiber for the integration of everything. Further down, you have the traction control off, you have the parking sensors auto shut off for the engine. It's red lights, always turn that off. M mode setup and the exhaust button. So going into M mode, you're gonna see we have road, sport, and track right here. And if you change this, you're also gonna change the gauge cluster, what that looks like. And we also, of course, want to have this exhaust button on. This setup button here is where you configure the engine, chassis, steering, brake, and so on. So put it in Sport Plus, it gets a little bit louder. You can hear that even at idle, and this is what we're gonna keep it in when we take this for a drive later on. But it is a pretty comfortable car. I mean, the ride is not too bad considering being a CS when you have it in efficient and everything here put in comfort. The only thing missing in the middle here for me would be cup holders, but it's not a huge deal. Then you have this CS inside of this leather, no center armrest and no storage in the middle except for this carbon fiber bucket that you have right here. And now look at these seats. These are the typical M bucket carbon fiber seats, complete carbon all around this, as you can see, the backside. Beautiful looking seats, and they're pretty hard, or they can be pretty hard to get into, but once you're in these seats, they're extremely comfortable because everything hugs you exactly where you want it to hug you. So if you go in a corner really fast, you don't have to worry about sliding off these seats thanks to these big bolstering that you have on the sides. Moving on to the steering wheel, typical BMW M steering wheel, which I love. Every single M car that I've sat in that has a steering wheel is just a fantastic feel, and this feels even thicker than normal. Alcantara all around, as you can see. You have the cruise control settings on the left side, again housed in a lot of carbon fiber, and the radio settings and voice commands on the right side. The configurable M1 and M2 buttons up top, or toggles. Then you have the pedals in carbon fiber as well behind this wheel, sticking out both, as you can see, in the bottom and up top, exactly like I want to see it, and also fixed to the steering wheel. One detail that I wish that feels maybe a little cheap, or if I were to put something in here that feels cheap, it would be the turn signal stock. It's like hard plastic, and I feel like this would be a little more high quality. Same thing with the wiper stock on this side right here, but that's just a small detail. On the left side of the steering wheel, you do have a vent right here and the controls for the lighting settings. With that said, we talked about the front side of the interior. Let's jump into the back and see if I can fit behind my own driving position. All right, coming back to the back seat here, this is an overview of what it looks like. Nothing too complicated. We do have the big, beautiful carbon fiber bucket seats in the rear with the gloss finish looking fantastic. So let's jump in here. Let me see if I can fit behind myself. And the thing about these seats, what makes them great from an industrial design standpoint, is you have these big holes right here. So even if you have your legs sort of inside of the seat, you're still gonna give you more leg space than if this was completely covered up. And in this case, we do have a center armrest that folds down, but you don't have any cup holders back here either. And looking up top, this being the carbon fiber roof, of course, we don't have a sunroof up here. Instead, it's all carbon fiber, exactly like we want in this type of car. All right, guys, setting off in the 2023 M3 CS. What a special car this is. I have it in, of course, all Sport Plus, and steering in Sport, brake in Sport as well. Oh, first of all, it just sounds so good. So some people complain that they don't like that BMW is pumping in some of the noise in the cabin. Honestly, I don't mind that at all. It just adds to the overall driving experience, in my opinion. I would much rather have that than having it be muted, and specifically with the regulations that we have in Europe right now, where a lot of manufacturers are saying that the cars can't be too loud anymore, so they need to dial it down. And I do understand why car companies want to have that feeling intact in cars, and one of the ways to do that is just pumping it artificially in the car. Might be a little, fake. I mean, it is fake, but again, I don't really care about that much. This honestly feels like just a big go-kart. That's what it feels like. I've driven the M2 competition, I've driven the M3 competition, M4 competition, and all of those cars. And this just feels like just a little bit more special than those cars to me. All right, let's pop it into manual. Oh, what a car this is. It just punches you in the back when you're shifting, and I have it on the highest shift level right now, so it shifts as fast as it possibly can, and you can definitely feel that when you're driving this car. And downshifts sounds fantastic. Got some crackles on the downshifts as well. This gearbox is just fantastic. The ZF 8-speed. I also love the layout of the pedals. When you have them bigger like this, it's very easy to always know where the pedals are. So let's try and put it in efficient and comfort, and let's see what type of difference that makes. It's kind of weird not to have an armrest here, but that's something you get used to when you're driving this for a long time, I guess. We're setting off in comfort right now, automatic. There we go, now we're in automatic. So let's see if there is a major difference between the Sport Plus. And I'm thinking, like, could I, if you think about daily driving this, potentially you could do that. The only thing missing, as I said, is for daily driving every day, if you put 40 miles in every day, then I definitely want to have an armrest, and I do probably want to have some cup holders here. But other than that, the smoothness of the ride when you have it in efficient and comfort is pretty good, but pretty boring as well. So let's put it back into sport and manual. You just want to keep pushing it. BMW has this ability to make, no matter what type of car they're creating, it's an SUV or a convertible or whatever, one thing they all have in common is the handling. And this, of course, being the top of the line M3, definitely no different. What an absolute joy this is to drive. It's one of these cars that you never want to get out of, specifically on a road like this. It just eats up the curves, and once you're out of the curve, you just want to step on it into the next curve. It's just a blissful car to drive. So how does it feel to a normal M3 competition, if you can say that? It feels exactly like you would expect it to. It feels a little bit more lighter in the corners, and it also feels a little snappier in the gearbox, but I'm not sure that has anything to do with the gearbox itself. It might be because this is just a little bit lighter maybe than the normal M3, but it just punches you in the back when you have it in Sport Plus in all the settings like we have right now. Overall, it's just fantastic driving machine by BMW. These are the type of sports cars that BMW should build. If there's anything I would like to change on this, it's maybe make it even more rough when you have it in the sportiest settings, because this is, after all, the CS. And even though I have it in the sportiest setting right now, it's still some people are gonna call this ridiculous, but it still feels almost too comfortable. I wanna be almost like a proper race car when you have it in this setting. So how do we sum up the 2024 BMW M3 CS? The design is still polarizing, but personally it's been growing on me, and I respect BMW for trying new things. Are there features that I like to redesign? Yes, and I've made videos on that here on the channel showing exactly what those changes are. So what about the driving experience? Is it still the ultimate driving machine? Yes, yes it is.